Welcome to the She Births Show, a place to inspire your birth, evolve your parenting, and help you live a life you love. I'm Nadine Richardson, your host and creator of the scientifically verified birth education program, She Births. I'm also a mother, yoga teacher, doula, author, and speaker. At She Births, we have supported thousands of families around the world for over 13 years with our unique program, and our vision is to make birth better for every family around the world so that everyone experiences a beautiful birth no matter what unfolds. Not only do we help people have beautiful births, but we also give them the skills and the philosophy to enjoy pregnancy and make parenting easier. As well as our world-class birth ed, taken either face-to-face or online in our app, we also have a free pregnancy guide designed to help you feel calm, connected, and inspired as you and your baby grow. We have a doula matching service, the perfect way to ensure you and your partner are completely supported throughout the whole journey. And we have our Soul Mama Circles, which are the perfect postpartum network to help optimize your mindset and design your life in parenthood. Remember, if you like what you hear today, subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. If you're a parent, about to be one, fellow health professional, join us now for an inspirational deep dive into topics with experts around the globe. We hope you enjoy this special episode. Welcome to episode 2 of Corinne and Andy's story. Today we share the amazing natural births of their twin girls, Ivey and Rocky, born frank and complete breech. I really hope you enjoy the way that we talk about birth, not only about the mechanics, but also about traversing those psychological and emotional challenges. And the reminder of how important it is at these times to have people around you that are giving power back to you. Sharing our stories in a deeper way like this honors all parts of ourselves. It also allows for embodiment and integration. And I call this birth harvesting. I'm writing more about this and how to prevent birth trauma in my upcoming book. So make sure you follow me and She Births on socials and subscribe to our podcast to hear more conversations about what really matters to all of us on the inside. In today's episode with Corinne and Andy, we talk about discovering the wild woman in your base chakra, She. How regional hospitals are often unable to assist with higher risk births, the challenge of changing location and travelling to a supportive hospital, and how even a supportive system can leave you in tears after each appointment, and how to get back into your zone. How interpreting statistics and making risk assessments is unique to each of us, avoiding an induction and refusing an epidural, having a dialogue with your cervix, and how She, the wild woman, is always there. Using affirmations in labour and a birthing stool squatting position for breech babies. We hope you enjoy.
And then when we did the 6-week scan and we found out it was twins, one, we were extremely surprised.
Have a few beers that night, Andy?
Yeah, it was a quiet trip down.
It was just good her to pin drop. And the German Micah, the German the doctor that owns it, the practice there, and Corinne was laying on the bed, and because we actually joked about it with Navy's birth, we're like, we have twins, we've got two, let's go two for one type of thing. And then going in the second time for the ultrasound, the thought didn't even come into our minds. And then as we were laying on the bed, they hit the perfect angle. And Mike is like, can you see that? And Corinne's like, can you see that? And I was a little bit further back. I couldn't. So I moved him really close and she got the right angle, and it was really perfect, clear, two houses, 2 bubs. And I think I just froze.
Hilarious.
And I was just stunned. We're probably tears, and then tears of joy, but also the unknown. And then it was a really quiet drive home because we were just like, wow, it's actually, wow, we've got twins. And we don't have twins on either side of our family as far as we know. So it's a pretty special jackpot.
And then I contacted my midwife again saying, twins, oh my goodness, like, let's do this. And I actually didn't realize. She said, oh, no, there's no, home birth with twins. And I actually was completely unaware. And, I remember being confused going, but I've seen, home births of twins. I've seen these footage, I follow, these wonderful, midwives. And I remember, going back on and looking at these videos, and then I realized they were overseas.
Yeah.
And I think that's when it all changed for me. That disappointment
took the wind out of the sail.
Yeah. And I almost didn't believe it, and I didn't understand why. And I even remember talking to Claire, my midwife, and like, is there anyone, like, can we, I heard there was an obstetrician that had retired down this way on the South Coast who was happy, would birth twins in the local hospital down here. And he had retired. I remember almost being in a panic going, can we ask him? Like, do you think he can come back and, so we can birth the twins down here? And that's when
you went to Shoalhaven, like the hospital, Shoalhaven.
Yeah. So
Caesar is the option.
Well, that's it. Yeah. So we've got, Maruya Hospital because, the obstetrician who recently retired, who happily did twins, he was no longer there. So Maruya wasn't an option. So I had to look at Shoalhaven Hospital, and I, did my appointments, early on with the obstetrician, and it was just, C-section talk. So that's when, I spoke to my midwife who was looking after me through the hospital, and she actually called on my behalf to Wollongong Hospital. And she spoke to them, and I actually spoke to a midwife there at Wollongong Hospital myself, saying, I really want to have a vaginal birth with these twins, and also as, low intervention as possible with twins. And she couldn't guarantee me. It was pretty much, there was two obstetricians there. One was more likely to be happy to give it a go, but it really depended on, the positions of the twins.
Yeah.
And look, to me, as my birth went along, there always seemed to be one bub that was breached.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until, with twins, you have a lot more scans, monthly scans, and they ended up both being breached. And this is where I panicked.
I think we spoke before that, though, right? Didn't we talk before that? Because I remember you freaking out about where and had that conversation.
Well, once actually I had that conversation with Wollongong Hospital, and there just wasn't that confidence there that I'd be given the go to have a vaginal birth. That's when, I reached out to you and I said, I don't know what to do here. I feel like this was all going downhill, and I felt like I was losing control. And I was mad. I remember just having a lot of anger inside of me that my choice of how I wanted to birth was being taken away, and I was really impacted. I was almost, obsessed by it, but in a negative way. And I just remember just had a lot of anger and rage flowing through me, and I hated that, because that's not what emotions and chemicals, and hormones should be flooding your body, during pregnancy. And that's when I reached out to you, hoping, you could give me a bit of guidance.
And I think I was just basically, saying to you, you're fine. You're going to be fine. This is just the next upgrade. You've had such a big, ascension program in the first birth that, of course, nature's like, she can handle, she's done her master's now. We'll give her the PhD. in like Shakti embodiment. Let's step it up. She can handle it. Just like you said, Andy, when we came online, I'm doing good. We're not getting much sleep, but I'm married to Super Mama here.
And that's it. And that's where, I realized that, this was the journey that we were blessed with. And the one thing I had control over was my mind and my mental state through this. So, that was moving forward, that was going to be the biggest challenge for me. And as we got closer, I was connected with Dr. Bissett's, which, ended up being, I was very grateful because both girls ended up becoming breached. So we were referred to Randwick Hospital. I didn't actually meet Dr. Bissett's closer until maybe 35 weeks, only really maybe 3 weeks out. So we started doing our appointments up at the hospital at Randwick, and I felt you
would drive up for the day.
Yeah, we would do the 4-hour trip.
Every week, weekly.
The appointments went from
monthly. Guys, it's full commitment,
Well, it was, and it was hard, and part of me was thinking, oh gosh, people probably think I'm so silly putting all this effort in, and it was disheartening because we were doing our appointments and we were having chats with, obstetricians there. We hadn't met Dr. Bissett's yet, but even the conversations in our appointments were the same, that, a vaginal birth, an active and low intervention vaginal birth for twins pretty much isn't a thing, and it won't won't be able to happen, especially to both my girls were presenting breech. So it was, pretty much a no. I was getting, and I was walking in there and I put so much effort. I chatted to you about my birth plan. I sat with my wonderful friend who's a midwife down here, and we went through our birth plan as well. And I kept going to my appointments going, look, I'm completely aware. Trust me, I'm taking in the risks that you're talking to me about. I've done my research. I was on, Breech Beyond Borders. I knew the statistics, but I just wanted an opportunity. I wanted to talk about let's talk about the birth when things go right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that twin birth where my body does what it needs to do and its function, because I believe my body's done it before and I knew I could do it again.
The space that we were coming from, where it was just a magical birth with Navy, we've kind of come from that end of just a real
just being
empowerment, embodiment in the process, and really just supported, understood, felt really safe. It was a collaborative effort. And then kind of thrown into that system because our choices, Corinne's, our choice of having a home birth with twins was taken from us, and that's, I guess, the way I'll phrase that. It's each to their own. I totally understand that. But for us, that option was taken from us, and that really knocked the wind out of our sails. Mm-hmm. And when we started doing the trips up, monthly, fortnightly, then weekly, a lot of those trips we were going to stay at a friend's place up there on the night, just to, catch up with friends and whatnot, because we were pretty in our little nest down here, back down the South Coast. A lot of times we would, Corinne would just jump in the car, cry, be bawling her eyes out. I'll be crying. And she's like, I just want to go home. And so we'll jump back in the car and drive 4 hours south again. And It was just not, a lot of those trips was not enjoyable. Like, it was highly stressful on Corinne, on me, on our relationship. We just kind of kept hitting our heads against the wall in a way, because we, a lot of the sessions or meetings or appointments that we had prior to Bissett's, we felt, and this is our perception, that it was being guided down a certain way. And it wasn't really the way that, we wanted to, we know what Corinne's body can do. We want to give it a red hot crack. And we weren't supported that way in the beginning, I guess. I could put it that way.
This is a hospital with a breech clinic and a twins clinic.
Yeah.
It's been established for over a decade.
Yeah.
And you're still coming out of your appointments crying because of this kind of risk approach that's being kind of dumped onto you. So what were they saying to you in the appointments? Like, what was the language? What were they going through? Was it just that repetition each time?
And I felt like we heard the same thing. It was just kind of going through, all the things that could go wrong. We heard probably a couple of times, with the risk of like a headlock or something like that.
Yeah, two twins kind of like
but, we had DA twins, so they had their own sac and their own placenta. And, this is where, knowing the statistics, and we would ask for the statistics, sometimes we wouldn't always get it. I had to, do my own research, and I actually knew, obviously there is always that risk, and that is their job to obviously, have that discussion with us. So it was
our experience. And it's not putting any blame or anger on any individual people at all. This is just our journey, I guess, through that system.
I kind of feel, though, like the whole point of a system is to be systematic and to, have an architecture amongst people and resources so that things flow smoothly. And one of the ways that things flow smoothly is that you keep a record of whether you've had the conversation with the people about what the risks are.
Yeah.
And you should have the stats there and present those as well. And if the couple has said, I'm comfortable with those risks, we would still like to proceed with attempting
to move forward,
then it's done. Tick box, not have to happen again. And so the system should adapt according to what your requests are, because the safety net is there. Sure, they're not comfortable with it, but that's their problem. I don't know. Why? I think this is what you're doing. You're really, and what I see a lot of she births do is like they demand better care, more respect for choices, and they're actually educating people in the system around how they want to be treated and what kind of birth they want. And I think this is like a grassroots kind of movement, and it can feel pretty tough and like you're alone. And I suppose I just really want to emphasize that for all the families that are out there, demanding more of our system.
And really, I was a lucky one that I had yourself to talk to. I had my friend who was a midwife, and then, Navy's midwife that I would, talk to afterwards. I would come out of these appointments and they would, remind me that, you can do this. And it is, and I feel like that's sad that I had to, I didn't feel supported in the hospital system prior to our appointments with Bissett's. And, also too, I think an important note was that one of our twins, twin A, Ivy, she was, measuring on the smaller side. And, even though we, every appointment we would have the ultrasound, and I'd have the amniotic fluid checked perfect. We would have the Dopplers, which is the blood flow between the placenta and baby, in the umbilical cord, would have that checked every fortnight, perfect, everything. There was no signs that, anything could go wrong. But then there was this constant conversation, you're putting, the twin A being a small baby and having a vaginal birth, that's, a high risk there. And also too, I wanted to try and go spontaneously as well. And as we're creeping closer to, 35 weeks, 36 weeks, and I was aware that they wanted to induce at 37, and we're getting there. And I was like, but I feel great. I know the bubs are fine. I feel great. Like, why can't I just be left to be? And I just found this so confusing, and I just every appointment it's like, oh, this small baby. And
there was a point where we actually we're told, oh, you need to get bloods again. And there was a couple of times where we just went, we don't need to. We don't. We know everything else is tracking well. You got bloods 2 weeks ago. Why do it just for the sake of it, type of thing? And because you'd go in the waiting room, then it'd be another hour to wait. And we've just been in a car for 4 hours. We've been in back-to-back appointments because you're trying to make them all fit in the afternoon on certain days there. And because we're traveling, that's added more time. And so by the time we got to that, and I think we did it once or twice, and then we just looked at each other and we went, I think you called maybe one of the midwives and just said, do we even have to do this? Like, I just feel like a pincushion. And we went, no, let's just not worry about it.
That's the thing. Do we even have to do this? People don't know that actually everything that's recommended within a system, you are not obliged to do.
Yeah.
They have no right to make you do that.
Yeah.
Or to tell you that you have to do that, or to use coercive language in the explanation of that.
And it was very much like that. Yeah, yeah. And look, we even found out as well, when they were talking about Ivy, twin A, being small, they plotted her on a graph, but it was for a singleton baby graph. And so we actually asked, and thankfully we just thought about it. We just said, oh, well, is there a twin graph? Does this exist? And we were told yes. And I said, well, can she be plotted on a twin graph? Oh, we don't use it. And I'm like, well, we're at a twin clinic.
Really confusing. It was all about she's a small baby. Like when Ivy was, 2.7,
yeah.
we're not big people. We make small to normal sized kids.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a lot of the coercive language around, oh, it's a small bub. You need to have this. You need to have
high
this.
Risk,
it's high risk.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, we have small bubs. All the tests that we're having and measurements are all
she's
fine.
Healthy. Yeah,
and then we found out
she's growing.
It was the size was being plotted on a singleton one, and at a twins clinic. And so there was some weird pauses in those meetings because we're just like, we're just confused, if they were measured on the actual twin graph, then that wouldn't have come across as a small bub or high risk, as they say. So I know there was parts where we were a bit confused. And again, that was totally opposite to the birthing experience with Navy. It was just a complete flow. So that made it difficult and challenging.
Yeah.
And now for a quick break. At She Births, we believe that pregnancy, birth and matrescence, the sacred postpartum, is an awesome rite of passage. Our free holistic pregnancy guide offers you 6 months of weekly support. Drop straight into your inbox or within our free She Births app, you can get content that will nourish your body, mind and soul. You can enjoy prenatal yoga videos, great recipes, birth affirmations, course discounts and more. From me and my team, the creator of the world's only scientifically verified antenatal classes, it is our gift to you. Sign up today and receive the free holistic pregnancy guide at shebirths.com/PG. That's shebirths.com/PG.
But yeah, and then, thankfully, I think it was at 35 weeks, we finally got our appointment with Dr. Bissett's and the legend himself. And that was the first appointment from pretty much the beginning of my pregnancy and appointments with obstetricians that I didn't walk out crying, and I felt empowered and just revived, and I felt back on track and in the mindset that I needed to be. And it was purely, like you said, the language, that he used. And he, straight away he said, I asked him, I said, are you confident about, birthing this double breech? And he said, oh, the mechanics of a breech doesn't faze me at all. That's, no, I'm not concerned. And I was like, oh, Thank you. I just needed to hear someone that, just knew that it was possible and trusted the birth process. And also too, he took in the whole picture. He saw that I, had a wonderful, positive, birth experience with Navy. He knew, the work that I was putting in as well into myself. The
way Corinne could like converse with Dr. Bissops just from her research and her knowledge. I'd be sitting there just going, like, Bissops has made comments. He's like, oh, you know your stuff, and you've done your research. And Corinne's like, I've thrown myself into this. I know what I can do. I know what my body can do. And I remember some of those conversations. But I remember one of our maybe 1 or 2 sessions after with Dr. B, and I had a friend who he said, make sure that he's the one going to be there, obviously in a public sector, because anyway, my mate encouraged me to do that. His dad's a doctor, and he said, just make sure that's happening. And I remember looking at Dr. B and just in the eye and said, mate, we're driving up 4 hours, 8 hours return with a bit of traffic just for you to see you, because you're the guy that is going to, that we've heard of, and that, you're encouraging us that, to let nature take its path and that it can happen. And he just, looked at me. I thought, I need to know that you're going to be in that room no matter what day, whatever night it is. I need to know that you're going to be there. And he goes, yeah. And then gave us his personal mobile phone number.
Yeah.
And he said, whenever it's happening, he goes, I will be there 100%. And he also said probably 99% of the other guys wouldn't take it on as well. So he said there's, I don't know what's
the double breech.
Yeah, the double breech. He just said, 99% of other OBs wouldn't take it on. So that was really reassuring for us, because I wanted to make sure, things were kicking off at, 2 a.m. in the morning, and we're coming over. We're staying up at Clavelli at the time to the hospital. I want to make sure that you're going to be there. You're the guy that we're familiar with. Corinne's was really comfortable with you. In her circle. It's imperative that you're there, because there was already had enough curveballs leading up to where we were, and now that we finally had that face to face and had a couple of consults with him, it was a real turnaround point. I could see that in Corinne, just her energy levels. I guess a sense of self was coming back a bit more as well, which was really important leading into the game day with the twins.
Totally. You have to go into a labour feeling confident, like you're gung-ho and I've got this and I'm going to take this on. But like to have twins and breech, you're like, you got to be like, 1,000% switched on and confident and ready. Like you say, like, did you feel like you managed to get that time to connect with your wild woman, that base chakra she again?
Well, look, and this is where we had that Zoom meeting with you. I think maybe that was maybe 5 days out or something. Look, it was a lot of work, and I probably wasn't where I was when I gave birth with Navy. And I think that was because of that real mental challenge of, every appointment, walking out feeling really disheartened and, just talking that, my body wouldn't function the way it should. I found that, really hard. And like I said before, there was almost, just a disconnect between, myself and that she and that I could do it. And that's when, I reached out to you and we had that meeting. And, I really needed to work hard. And, as we spoke about, the things that I could do to really help with my mind frame, because, I was, I experienced that with Navy's birth, is that, when you have that really strong, confident mind-body connection, it's so important, going into the birth and getting through the labour. So I was really worried that, the stress, also the impact on my body, and not being as focused as what I know I could. So, after our chat, we spoke about, really taking that time to, meditate, get back into that meditation. And to be honest, a lot of that was thrown out the window because I was so disheartened.
Yeah.
So making sure I was doing that and just the little things that I could do. And I think when we had that meeting, that Zoom meeting together with you, Nadine, something that, really struck a chord, and I had to remind myself, as you said, that, you can have a beautiful birth anywhere. And because I had in my head that this, hospital birth, and with these breech twins, it was just, I was really fearful that, it wasn't going to be the experience that I knew I could have. And you just reminding me that it is possible to have a beautiful birth
in the hospital.
And that's it. And, I had to accept early on that, I was going to have this birth in a hospital.
And with a lot of people in the room.
That's it. Yeah. We'll get to that.
Front row tickets to a concert.
Yeah, that's it. So look, I was very thankful to have that chat with you in those last couple of days leading in, and I really just took the time, and it was hard at that point. We had moved up to Sydney and we were pretty much couch surfing in different homes. So I wasn't in my nest.
Yeah, that's so hard. Do you know how hard people who are listening, who are pregnant, I bet you they can't even imagine that, because for that first time especially, your nesting is so important.
And I couldn't nest because I was in, we'll think some of them were our friends' homes, but others were, friends of friends that heard our story, and they were away, for the Christmas holidays. So they just, contacted us and opened up their homes to us. So it was Andy and I had to have Navy with me, of course, because, I needed that oxytocin. I knew how important that was, and I didn't know how long we would be, waiting around in Sydney for. So, and then, we had my mum with us too. So when the time came to go into hospital, someone had to, look after Navy. So the 5 of us were, couch surfing. And that was exhausting. And, I felt like I didn't have that normal process of, just really shutting off, externally and going inward like I did with my first pregnancy. And then, we got to 37 weeks and, Dr. Bissett's was really, he was aware that I really wanted to go spontaneously. I felt there wasn't, even though there was this small baby, I knew that she was healthy and safe and I felt good. I wanted to, just be left alone a little bit. It got to the point though where I was so homesick, and I felt, it wasn't fair on Navy to have her out of the home and, in different places and bouncing around and, living out of suitcases and spending a fortune on takeaway. And it was a lot. So look, one of my blood tests came back that my platelet count was dropping. So then the discussion actually turned to that, I didn't want to, Dr. Bissett's didn't want me to have the birth that I wanted, was able to, get through the vaginal birth. But then, my platelet count got so low to, everything was thrown out of the window. We didn't want that to happen. So look, we spoke about being induced. I decided to do a stretch and sweep just to see, if that could kick.
I talked to you just before that, wasn't it? And you were a bit undecided. So did you decide on the day when you went in?
Yeah, well, we did. Yeah, we just decided pretty much at the moment.
We spoke about it.
Yeah,
and
we spoke about it.
We just want to have a couple of hours. We're going to go for a bit of a walk. And we obviously called you and
we spoke
the midwife, Claire, as well, because we just thought, well, wait a second, let's remove ourselves from the hospital. Beautiful. Let's go out, let's get some lunch, let's sit in the sun, let's call some of our people in our inner circle and just get a bit more information, I guess, about the stretch and sweep and, just, I guess, have that reassurance, but also just familiar voices that feel more comfortable and assured with what we're going to make these decisions. So
really applying that sort of informed consent brand acronym. Remember that: benefits, risks, alternatives, intuition and nothing, space and time to discuss and decide.
Yeah, and I think what we really appreciated having the discussions with Dr. Bissett, he would always say that, this is the hospital recommendations and it is your choice. Nothing is nothing. When we booked to have the stretch and sweep, he would say, this is only penciled in, and it is your discussion. And it was really nice to just have that support. And
there was no coercion or anything. It was, hey, we can put this in, and if you want to have it or not, that's great. Just have a think about it. Get back to me when you need to. It was really,
we really appreciate.
Yeah, really appreciate it. And it was just it was just his language and just so supportive and calm. Yeah, and as he said before, as Corinne said before, when we asked him about twin breech, he goes, no, mechanics are there. The body's built for it. So it was that helped us feel.
And
a bit
again,
more
that was, him giving me the power back to me. And
that's
he knew,
right.
and I openly said to him that, I'm really uncomfortable in this hospital system. And, he sensed that and the nerves and everything that was happening inside my head. And, just the way he, the way he would, deliver things and the way he would say things to me was really, giving the power back to me and making me feel like I had control over my birth. And to be honest, I didn't feel that I had that control all the way through the pregnancy until talking to him.
In the end,
So look, I decided to give the stretch and sweep a go. And, we went down to, we had that in the morning and we took Navy down to, Clovelly Beach and just tried to relax and see what would happen. And things started kicking off.
Oh, wow.
That night. Yeah. So, I just was hopping in the warm shower and trying to relax. And, I wanted to make sure that things were progressing as much as possible before I gave, Dr. Bissett's a call.
Yeah.
So I did wait till I felt like, the waves and, had a quite, a bite to them, or I shouldn't say it like that, but, just that extra level of, intensity. Yeah. So I gave him a buzz. I think that must have been maybe, 3 or 4 in the morning saying, I think, I'm getting there. So we met him in the hospital. Oh, but before that, as soon as I got in the car, of course, they slowed down.
Yeah.
And, I got to the hospital and they pretty much stopped. And I think, what contributed to that was getting there and, being, strapped up with the monitors. And, as much as I was trying to stay within myself, I found it, for me personally, I just found it impossible with that. And I know, having a twin birth, there's that next level of monitoring. I had 2 monitors for each bub and then another monitor for something else. It was a lot.
And coming from, again, where we were with Navy, where it was just absolute no intervention, left alone in the dark. It was straight to this experience. It was pretty confronting and it was pretty full on,
and I knew that would happen. And that's the discussion that I had with you leading into this, is just that, really trying to focus and stay inward as much as possible. And Dr. Bissett, he came in and he could see, I said, these contractions have stopped, and, he left and he just said, look, just let's give it some time. And he left the room, and 2 minutes later, I said to Andy, I think he must have said something, because a midwife came in and just started taking everything off me.
Wow.
And she said, look, we're just going to, no one's going to come in the room and we're just going to let you be. So I really think he just told everyone, just leave this girl alone.
And that's him just kind of, reading the book. One of his skill sets is just to read the room, to read what's going on, and didn't even say anything to us. And then it all kind of, just slowed down, and it was good.
Yeah.
And now for a quick break. Contrary to popular culture, She Births believes that childbirth can be the best day of your life. It is designed perfectly to be empowering, enriching and bonding. An awesome rite of passage. Our childbirth education programs have helped thousands of families around the world since 2008, allowing families to not only feel empowered through education, but also connect with their innate birthing wisdom to create the best birth possible and begin their parenting journey with confidence. She Birth's unique methodology was scrutinised in university trials and has been published in the British Medical Journal for improving birth outcomes for both mother and child. I'd like to invite you to begin preparing for birth today. Just go to shebirths.com to discover our 2-day weekend face-to-face courses or access the online courses from anywhere around the world. That's shebirths.com. Create your beautiful birth with the world's only scientifically verified antenatal classes.
So that was nice, and just to have, it was pretty much until midday, and he would pop in. It was literally just his face then I would see, and just one other midwife, where beforehand first coming in there was, multiple people coming into the room. Yes, that's it. So
that you've never seen before.
That's it. Yeah. So that was kind of nice just to have, just two faces that I would see, and the head midwife there of the birthing unit was absolutely wonderful. So as we got to the hospital, they take your bloods, and it actually came back that my platelets dropped again from the following week. And that's where we had the discussion. Dr. Bissets came in and said, look, like they're actually at the level now where, if you, were to do this birth and you got the birth that you wanted, but, you need to be able to clot, that's what your platelets are for. And, they're getting up to the point where it's going to be dangerous, and you don't want to get to that point. So we had a discussion, and that was pretty much, I didn't want to do the work, and I put in so much effort to make sure I was, in a place that supported me and, with people that believed in me to, then get through and, things go downhill. I didn't want to be whisked away and separated from my baby. So look, I said to Dr. Bissett that, let's get this moving.
Yeah.
So, he said he would come back and he would break my waters. So he came back, a couple of hours later, and it was, time to break the waters. And, we did that. And it all pretty, kicked off within, I think, half an hour.
Yeah. He was ready to start coming through.
Yeah, that's it. So, look, and you know what, it was almost a relief, and that's where, I knew it was the right decision. I wanted to keep myself safe as well as the babies. So
that was 37 and 4 days.
Yeah, it was a relief to get the ball rolling. And look at, just I guess that was a different experience as well, having the waters break and having it, escalate, and the surges become strong, in quite a short amount of time.
And that's one thing we have to just tell people who are listening, is that you requested no epidural, whereas the standard practice is that when a woman is induced with twins, or where she presents in labour with twins, on arrival, on presentation, she is given an epidural line, and therefore
that's it. Yeah.
And I'm sorry, we forgot to say, and it's just make it clear, like that is a really big thing to push back against.
Yeah, it was pretty much.
Yeah, really.
And that was one of the main things, is that with twins, you have an epidural with a twin birth.
And that was like textbook for the first couple of meetings, prior to Bissets, and we're just like, you don't want it. Corinne doesn't want an epidural. She wants to. She wants to go without the epidural and give it a really red hot crack.
Yeah. So and I do actually remember the appointment being told, it's just a standard thing with a twin birth that you have an epidural. And I said, does that mean I can't stand and have an active birth? And they said yes. And that's when I broke down, because that's all my hard work. That's the part of the work, the process.
That's the mind-body connection. Like that's listening to your body and moving and feeling your baby and intuiting.
Yeah.
And to be told that whole
and to be told that was always going to be taken away. Like I just didn't believe that, and that was really disheartening. So, thankfully Dr. Bissett's trust that I could, do it without the epidural. So no epidural, and things kicked off, and I had, I was just going through the motions. I had a photo there of Navy, and you suggested as well, do some artwork with Navy beforehand. So we did a little bit of artwork, I think the day before, and I took that in and I had her artwork there, and that was really important too, to be able to, see her. And that was something, after all this, I was able to go home to her. So that was a great reminder through the birth as well. And I had, was just going through my big belly breaths and, the counting, and the, just resting in between. I was moving. We had the mat on the floor.
Wow.
So just trying to,
contemplation of twins without an epidural.
That's it.
So good, like a twins nut on the floor, like
it was an absolute beast mode. Hey, I was just like, wow.
I probably like beast mode.
Beast mode. Yeah.
You just turn in, and
it was. See, it was always there, and that's
it
at a
really
shitty time in pregnancy.
And she knew what to do.
There.
Yeah, she knew what to do. And it was funny, as soon as, I felt the surges starting to, vamp up, it just, I just closed my eyes, and she just stepped up to the table and kind of just guided me through, so it's just doing the breathing, moving around. I was really thankful to have, the head midwife at the birthing unit. She actually was meant to finish her shift at 3:00, but she stayed around, and she was just, amazing, and just this, unplanned person in my circle. As well, we had our photographer.
Yes, I had that feeling. I have to tell people that, like, after I spoke to you that last time, a few days before you went into labour, I was like, I woke up one morning, I was like, you have to have photos. Like, you have to have a photographer. And then we reached out to our doula service and gave you 3 options. And it was just so perfect, right? That she was like, your doula as well as the photographer on the day.
Yeah. And look, Lauren was absolutely, like, we hadn't met her before. We chatted on the phone, I think the day before.
Yeah.
And she came in, and I was, funnily enough, I was like, you're meant to be in our circle, and she was wonderful. And like you said, she, wasn't just our photographer, but a doula as well. So, and she would just, I felt like she knew when, sometimes she just needed to say, perhaps Corinne, like, let's switch it up, or, back to your breath.
Yeah, there's some coaching, there. It was really nice.
It was really nice, and exactly what I needed. And so, really my circle was, before things started, and Dr. Bissett's wasn't here at the moment. It was literally me, Andy, the head midwife, and Lauren. And, so, and I just felt, that was my safe circle. And again, that's why it's so important to, women should be able to have that choice and be conscious and purposeful about who's in their birth circle. And, I remember things, vamping up, and I put myself back on the toilet. I was just almost reliving, going through the motion, reliving Navy's birth. And, I had, with each surge, I had, the same visualization. I was talking to my cervix about, really opening up. And, my prep for this was, how you tighten your pelvic floor and really relax it. I just made sure with each surge that I felt that deep let go and surrender of your cervix. And I remember talking to my cervix as well, letting go. And I actually got that that tip from not only my friend, but I remember reading in Ina May's book a story where she witnessed this lady who was in labor for hours and hours and was told that she might have to move on to the hospital, to help things along. And she said, no, stop, like, just give me a moment. And Ina witnessed her having a conversation with her cervix and telling it to open. And it opened up, And that's where, like, I'm such a believer and such an advocate of just doing this work.
Learning to talk with your body, learning to connect.
And that's it. And your body can listen. Yeah. And I witnessed that with Navy's birth, and that's why I knew I could do it again. And so with each contraction, just talking to my cervix and feeling it open and telling it to open and relaxing and letting go. And then my mantra again was, I'm an ox. And especially when I got into the active birth, I was right in there on the toilet. And I did, I noticed there was maybe 1 or 2 contractions when I didn't say those mantras and I didn't shut down and go deep and feel myself opening up. I would go into a bit of a panic and my breath would be out. And I'd have to remind myself, in between the surges to, just keep at it. And you had the comb, the TENS machine. And I was getting exhausted by this point. Mm-hmm. And I think, I felt like I needed something else. And the midwife actually, recommended, did you want to try the gas? Which I think it was helpful in the way that it just helped me keep my breath. Yeah. So that was quite helpful. Again, I had a little bit of a feel and I could feel, something was there. And so Dr. Bissett's came in. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he said it was time.
Was it a bottom? Was it a bottom?
Yeah, no, that's it. And that's why it was just such a different feeling.
Full pike.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. She was in frank position, which is, bottom first and feet up. So, Dr. Bissett's came in whilst I was sitting on the toilet and I said, this is, it's happening. And, the midwife, I asked her, like, can you just have a little bit of a look I don't know what I'm feeling, just to double check. And she said, yep. We're here. And Bissett said, all right, let's do this. And he told us in advance, he said, look, it's really effective, with breech, to try the birthing stool. Let's give that a go, which I was happy to do. So, Bissett's, like, strangely enough, he didn't touch me the whole time, especially with breech, it's all, hands off.
That's right.
So he actually guided Andy to sit on the side of the bed, and we had the birthing stool on the side, and I propped myself up, so pretty much in a deep squat position. So my heels were on the birthing stool.
Oh, and wow.
So very deep squat. Even looking back, I actually looked at the photos the other day and I was like, how did I hold that position? It was all the yoga.
And you were kind of supporting her, and your feet were where normally a bottom or sit bones would be. Yeah,
that's it. And Dr. Bissett's actually said to Andy, when Andy could feel the contraction starting up, he actually guided Andy, or asked Andy to lean forward and to push his chest against my back, just to help me with, leaning forward. And
the 2 hands on the side, I was holding onto there. So when the contractions kicked off, then I would pull myself forward that way, and that would push down on Corinne.
Yeah. And obviously, that helped with, the breech position of the barber, making them come through smoothly. So, we did that, and her bum came through, and she actually came through so quickly. I think there was that bum and then the break, and I wasn't sure, my goodness, how many more contractions, but it was literally with that next contraction, she just came through. And she was popped up on my chest, and
did she hang for a moment with her head inside and her body?
Yes, that's it. Yeah, so her bottom came through, and I think she got to the point where it was just her head inside and just hanging there. Obviously, I couldn't see anything, but the photos are just next level. Just, crazy. And she came through, and the midwife, caught her.
Can I just say, who caught her? Wasn't it Caitlin, our She Births educator, was in there?
No, she was there. No, she was taking the photos. I don't think
she did the photos.
No, yeah. No, I don't think she caught her.
No.
I think it was the midwife.
I think it was the midwife, but it was pretty bit of a blur that period of time.
Yeah, I just have a feeling like Caitlin, our midwife, for the first baby, when she registered as a midwife, was breech, but I wasn't sure if she was at your birth, but I wasn't sure if she caught.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, no, she came through and they popped her on my chest and I was helped down, and it was a bit overwhelming, and because I was guided to lay back on the bed, and it was a little bit overwhelming because I guess the big question was, had twin B, Rocky, had she done a turn, and what we didn't want was her to become transverse and laying across, because obviously that's we wanted her to engage on the cervix again, but thankfully I was laying on the bed. I had Ivy on me, and I wanted that really important to try and get that oxytocin going again to help with the contractions. And sorry to pause, but you might have to get Mum to, or Rocky, or do you want to grab her? Sorry, one of the babies.
I'm not surprised. We've been on for like over an hour and a half.
Well, I did have a good word to them that we were chatting to you today. So Dr. Bissett's, whilst I was laying there with Ivy, they did the ultrasound just to see where Bub 2 was laying, and thankfully she was still, breached. So she was in a great position to get back up. It was in my birth plan. I really wanted to be left and just to see if, I really wanted my contractions to start again, on their own. But the conversation was that I did tear a little bit, and I think that was due to, that deep position squat that I was in, or I feel like that could have been it. And I guess with the concern with my platelet count being so low, he said, look, we're really at a point where, we don't really have time on our side anymore.
Oh my goodness. This is the cutest.
This is Miss Rocky.
Rocky.
Hello. I hope you don't mind. I'm just going to pop her on to feed her while we chat.
She's so gorgeous.
Say hi.
You're having the big smiles. There's a lot of smiles after waking up.
She knows what's coming, that's why.
Yeah, that's time. Take your time.
Yeah, so I guess, that was a change in, our birth plan was, I wasn't able to wait, but, I understand it was because of my, platelet count and things. So I had the injection to help.
Oxytocin in the thigh.
Yeah, to help, kickstart the contractions.
Right.
So I had that, and, I could feel them, starting again. So it was off to round 2. And at this point, I do remember saying to Dr. Bissett's probably multiple times, oh my goodness, I just don't think I have the energy to do this. And I remember like holding on tightly to the gas. And he said, no, Corinne, no, like, let go. Like, this is all you, like, you've got it. You've done like, twin A, Ivy's here. This is all you, you've got this. And I do actually remember, looking around, and at this point there was probably close to 15 people in the room. There was a lot. It felt like a lot. It might not have been 15. Let's say
I think there's
10
maybe
or something.
10.
Because
it was probably about 10.
Each baby has their own team, really. So each baby has 2 midwives, 2 neonatals.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So look, to start off with, there is a bit of a team, but I do feel like this was a bit of a, once in a lifetime experience at the hospital, or a rare occasion, I should say, having, 2 twin breech,
maybe a few extra people came along just to watch. You think maybe?
Yeah, that's it. So
it was actually the head midwife who stayed back. She moved a couple on, and I think she may have sensed that there was a bit too much going on in there for us. And so I think there was a couple. I was like, oh, I remember just kind of looking over and it's like, oh, yeah, you don't need to be here. You can go outside type of thing. Because it was a bit of a concept to see, no epidural, just a full natural double breeched, a Superwoman do her thing. And so I remember looking over and there was a couple that were like, well, you're not really need to be here. So you can wait outside. So
hilarious.
So look, and at that point, Andy, I handed Ivy over to Andy, and but then, obviously I needed Andy to be part of, the process to help me with the contractions and get through. And so, we handed Ivy over and took our position again on the birthing stool. And I think it was possibly maybe, I don't know, I would have to say maybe like 4 contractions.
Wow.
Rocky was a complete breech. So the pictures of her, her feet, her bum and her toes poking through.
Wow.
Is pretty amazing. And I just remember just not having any energy left at all, but the only thing that could keep me through was just telling myself I'm an ox, and we're here. And I just remember like I don't know, like I could have been saying that out loud for all I know. I just remember almost just yelling that mantra at myself, internally, just to get me through. She came through, and just it was just a pretty amazing moment. And just that, oh my goodness, like we're on the other side and we did it.
Wow.
We did it. Amazing. Yeah, it was just amazing. I just almost, a part of me, going into this, I knew I could, but unfortunately there was just a lot of this doubt placed on me. And, when she came out, I was so happy. And I just remember looking at Dr. Bissett's too, and I swear he was just like a proud father moment. And just it was just really beautiful. And we hopped on the bed, and both girls were placed in my arms, and I was just so proud. And I just remember saying like, yes, like I did it.
You're a superstar, like full superstar, like fully total rock star.
Thank you.
I mean, I feel like the name Rocky, like it just sort of, I know there's like an Italian kind of, what's that name? Because to me, it's such a strong name. Like I think of like.
It is. Well, I think for us, like when we came, we always knew Ivy would be Ivy, and she was always our little Ivy, because we knew she was the small above. But with Rocky, we came across that name, and there was just something I guess like you said, just something really just unique, strong woman vibe that we were getting from that name. And we had a couple of other names, but we just a couple of days later we just there's just something about that name that just really resonated with us. And I think like you said, just that really just strong, independent to it.
It's really strong and independent. And I just feel like the names of the girls, because of course the children, like there's nothing wrong with like having a bit of rage, I think, or our grief and all these feelings. Actually, when we tune into our babies when we're pregnant, they're normally totally fine with it, but at the same time they're learning from it.
I feel like I was really worried about that too, because I know that babies can sense what we're going through, and that's what I was really worried about as well, that I was exposing Ivy and Rocky to a lot of anxiety and stress, and and that's why I really wanted to do this for them as well. I wanted to give them that rite of passage of doing this birth the way I wanted. It was for them as well, and I'm just so thankful that I didn't stop, and I advocated for myself, and I was able to surround myself with people that allowed this birth to happen.
Absolutely. Oh my God, am I going to meet Ivy now as well? Oh my goodness, you're so cool. Look at you.
So they're very much chalk and cheese. They're very different to each other.
What size was Rocky when she was born?
So Rocky was 2 Miss Smiles, Ivy. She'll smile at like a fly on the wall at anything. So Ivy was 2.69.
Yeah.
So that was at 37 weeks and 3 days, and Navy at 2 days off 40 weeks was 2.7. So they were really close. And Ivy was 2.4 or something.
4.9 or something.
Yeah. So she was on the smaller side, but she was healthy and happy, and we knew that. And and look, like they were great. I was a little bit concerned as well. How they would go coming a little bit early, and that's why I wanted to kind of push against the system and going beyond 37 weeks as much as I could, because I knew every day is that that extra day of maturing, and I wanted to have as much as I can a positive impact on the feeding afterwards and things. So look, it did. I felt like the twins coming at 37, although I know, we are told that they are considered at 37, full term and mature. I felt like it was a little bit of work in terms of the breastfeeding, but we got there, and we're doing great. It's a huge learning curve having one bub and being able to, take turns and tag team, and with twins there's no tag teaming.
Whole new ball game.
We're both on
whole new ball game.
But look, we're here, and look now they're 5 months and they're thriving. And look, I look back now at our experience, and I'm really proud of myself that I stuck to my guns and I worked hard and, searched for the right people to be in my circle. And, I feel like I'm sure I was annoying to some particular people in the hospital system. But, if I didn't, I feel like, our story would have been different.
Yeah, amazing. Oh, Corinne, it's just mind-blowing. It's just so awesome. It's just everything that you've just done, the inner work and the outer work, and it's all just come together. And I was just going to say about the girls' names, I kind of feel like there's this duality, this beauty in the two names. Like Rocky is really strong and independent and unflappable, kind of unshakable energy. But Ivy is like how you were in the system, like Ivy just kind of creeps on in, and she like takes over a whole wall before you realize it. Like she's just like taken over that hospital space, and she's got what she wanted, and making it all green and beautiful. And
that's almost like
that masculine, really both, that's what you did so beautifully together, all of you, really beautiful.
No, and like you're right. I think they are almost the picture of the dance that happened within myself as well, and the story of how they got here.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for sharing. Is there anything you want to say, Andy, to the dads out there or families out there?
I think. And again, for me, I thought, I guess being in education and physical health education, kind of living and teaching and breathing that for a long time, 15, 20 years, I really thought I had what I needed to go into it. And, when we went to that weekend doing the she birthing course, I learned a lot of new knowledge in terms of like techniques and strategies and breathing and things like that. But for me, one of the biggest things is it just not reaffirmed, but just gave, I guess, Corinne and I just a real sense of calmness that we're both on the same page and we're both in this together. And having that knowledge and doing it together, I think made us stronger as well.
It's not just a rite of passage for the female, but also for, men becoming fathers. And, I think it is really important. Andy walked away with, like he said, that knowledge, and he left empowered as well. And in our both births, Andy was highly involved, and I just think
definitely. And I don't know, I just not a newfound respect, but to see, be involved and see Corinne giving birth to, 3 of our kids, just what she could do as mind, body and soul, it blows my mind away. So I'm just in awe, just in an amazement, and I'm a very lucky man.
Oh, so beautiful. Oh, you guys, I'll have a little cry. I wish I was there to give the babies a cuddle. They're so cute.
I know, it would have been great to see you before we left Sydney.
You guys did a quick turnaround as well. Hello,
we were just keen. Look, I think we were in hospital for like maybe 4 days, and we were just keen to get home. So, but being in the hospital, we would have people, midwives that would pop in and say, "Oh, hi, I just wanted to come in and say, we heard your story and your birth, and, thank you, and you need to get your story out, and, this is why we're here." And I had my one midwife say, she, changed hospitals to work with Dr. Bissett's, because he's such an advocate for women and women having choice, in their birth. And, she said, I remember her saying, you have to get your story out, and, it was really awesome what you did. And I was almost like a little bit of a celebrity for the 4 days in the hospital. And I actually didn't realize just the, what it actually meant to people in the hospital system that, have those values, that yourself have, in terms of, empowering women to have a beautiful birth, and what that actually means and what's required, from the hospital system. Yeah.
That's right. That's it. A lot. Well, I think you are going to be a bit of a celebrity when we share this story. So, I'll tell you all the comments that we get in response, and it's so inspiring. And long live she, I say. May she always, come through us and birth us and help us let go and raise our children, and with grace and ease and love, and all those nights of sleep deprivation, may she always look after us.
That's it. Yeah. And I think, I'm very grateful to, go through birth and, really connect with her doing that work, which allowed me to connect to her. And, and it makes going through, other life challenges, knowing that I do have that strength there. And, I'm really thankful. I'm thankful for the births that I had. I'm thankful for She Birth to, giving me the tools and allowing me to, do that work, or knowing the work that needs to be done, and allowing me to really connect in and find her. Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing. I feel like I'm going to let you guys go. Get your feet on the ground. It's been like 2 hours of epic birth stories, but we did tell 3 birth stories in 2 hours, which is and really amazing. So thank you again for sharing. It's been so wonderful. My dogs are now barking, starting to bark. Hang on.
I'm Nadine Richardson, and you've been listening to the She Births Show. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. We'd love to know what you would like to hear more of. You can find me and my team of amazing doulas and educators at shebirths.com, and our awesome community on Instagram and Facebook. Within any good app store, you can download our free pregnancy guide via She Births, 2 separate words and plural, as well as access a range of online courses. Remember, when it comes to having a better birth, an easier transition into parenthood, your education is your empowerment. Don't forget to check out the catalogue of previous podcasts, and thank you for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed the show.